it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. And it's like, I feel like when I say that, I think a photo needs to make you ask questions.
I approve waterboarding. They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside.
Air railings.
A new dimension.
We are back. Another episode of the Grab Matters podcast. Today we welcome on a very special guest, Josh Letchworth. How's it going, dude?
It's going well. Thank you for having me on, Hunter. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm appreciative you're here. You showed up in your van, which I was not expecting. I figured you had one, but this thing is badass. I'm gonna throw a photo in, but it's your daily, right?
It's amazing. I love that thing. Yeah, Flatline, Silas, those guys hooked me up a few years ago. I sold my truck and always wanted a van, and opportunity came along a little earlier than I thought it would, and now it's my daily driver. I pull my boat with it, go to the Everglades, fish, keys. It's a photo vessel. It's base camp on shoots now. I don't, if I got to fly across the country, it's one thing, but if I'm in the Southeast, I just take the van. And my family and I can camp. My wife and I love to go camp up in the mountains. So it's hitting a lot of things right now. It's amazing. Aside from having to park that thing in local traffic, but it's great. Yeah, I love that thing.
All right, so I kind of want to know how your summer's been going, because it seems like you've been kind of moving around a little bit, working with a lot of people. So how's summer 2025 treating you?
Summer is going well. I know, man. Thank you for being so flexible. I felt like we had this date set up so many different times, and I kept having to cancel and change dates and all that, which was like, I hate that. I was frustrated, but yeah, it's been a busy year for sure. Like this year, normally for me, start of the year is always difficult. Like January, looking at the year and what's going to happen is a bit overwhelming, because I'm typically slow, work wise, January, February. And this year I kind of started off, I had a big Visit Orlando campaign that I was doing. And then typically things always stay busy. Like once you get into April, May, I start doing boat shoots and just, budgets open up and things just start to kind of happen. So I didn't really have much of a break. I mean, it was which is a good thing work-wise. I was from January on, and I've just now kind of started to pump the brakes and finished up the last of the Yamaha shoots that I just did. And I'm back home, and now it's now it's super chill. My two of my kids don't live in the house anymore, and we have a 14-year-old that's still there. My oldest son's up in Atlanta. Our daughter is in Tallahassee starting her senior year, so it's quiet now, I'm 50 and I don't know. It's just different. Life's different. I mean, I still stay super active and always trying to get into some sort of adventure, but I don't know. Summers are a little different now. It's when I am home, it's peace and quiet. We've got spa music pumping through the house and have a coffee and kick our feet up and take a swim in the lake. And, and then I don't know. It's just something happened once I hit 50, things just got a little slower, which I welcome that, because I just feel like my whole life's always been go, go, go.
Well, and I feel like they say when you get older, time moves faster. So that's kind of interesting.
It does. Yeah. As you get older, you really start to count the days a little, you start to really think about, what did I see the other day about 80 summers or something, it's if you're lucky, you have 80 summers, so when you're 50, you start thinking of okay, so I have 30 or 40 summers left, at best. So, not to really put this, I don't know, this kind of dark look into how much time you have here, but it's you do start to focus a little more on being grateful for the time that you have and spending the time the way you want to with the people that you want to spend it with. Yeah,
absolutely. I feel like you can have a negative perspective on the time left or a positive. And if you go the positive route, it's slow it down a little bit. Let's
exactly. It's not like I'm coming at it from oh my God, I'm running out of time.
Count down the days.
Right. But you do start to just appreciate the time you have, and you start wanting to just make sure that you're spending those wisely, doing the things you want.
Yeah, a little more time in the van, exploring and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
All right, so I do usually start off with favorite grab. So I got to hit you with it. And I think, the favorite grab. What do you got?
Oh, man, favorite grab. I mean, to photograph, it was always the method. And I always liked stale fish.
Okay.
Can I have two answers?
You could. There's no rules to this podcast.
I mean, I don't know. A method was always just a beautiful.
You got a favorite method you can think of right now? I'm thinking of a couple right now.
From people?
From people, yeah. When you were shooting them, you know?
Yeah.
Anybody sticks out?
I mean, Colin Wright.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a really good method. I mean, Greg Nekrasen.
Yeah.
You know, his was kind of what, like melon, you know, method kind of vibe going on, but he just always had, you know, just was able to hold that for a long time. Greg Nelson
is the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, took a while for me to kind of get to where I was like shooting with Greg and all that and the double up crew. But when I finally did, I was like, oh my God, there it is. There's that method. There's that famous Greg Nelson method. Yeah. Yeah. So that was always a good one for sure. So.
All right. Those are some good names. So I think before we get into, you know, wakeboard industry work and stuff, I think we gotta touch on where you're from and kind of how you got into photography. So
sure.
Run us through the early days.
Yeah. I'm born and raised Florida native, you know, first generation. And, I was actually raised in Sanford, Florida, just down the road from where I live now. How did I find photography? I mean, for me, it was, you know, I look back, my mom wasn't a photographer, you know, like professional, but she was like, she always had a camera, you know, and I really look back at how much influence that had on me. It was like, it was huge. I mean, to this day, we've got photo albums that she was relentless about, you know, making prints and keeping albums from 1973 up until the early 2000s, and like super well organized. So she always just had a camera, always shooting film. She loved it. She was like just a little weekend enthusiast. And, you know, it was real snapshots, point and shoots, but she always was documenting, you know, and like as a kid, I remember being like kind of frustrated by it, where it was just like, I felt like the camera was always in my face.
Mom, put the phone down.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And instead of mom, put the phone down, mom, put the camera down. And, but now it's like, that's one of those things. And I say it all the time, and I'm so damn grateful for all those years for her taking all those photos and documenting. And I think in some way that had a huge influence on me.
Yeah.
You know, that there was always a camera there. And as I started to get older, I started to see the benefit of what it means to like capture and archive history. And so that always played a big role in like this desire to want to capture and create. And then I was left-handed, so I always felt like, you know, that kind of led into this like creative world. And, you know, I loved art when I was a kid. You know, art was my favorite subject, and I loved to draw, and just I spent a lot of time daydreaming as a kid, you know, just driving around, just thinking in the clouds, head in the clouds, and coming up with ideas and building forts. And, you know, grew up in the 80s, so it was like that. We had these interesting ways that boredom kind of created, you know, ways to be creative. And that was the way you got rid of boredom. You just got out there and figured something out, you know. You didn't have ways to distract you like we do now. And, so for me, I always felt like a lean into being creative. And then really the camera didn't fall in my lap until college, though. It was
really, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was young, I was never into like yearbook, and, you know, I had friends that took photos in high school, and it just didn't click for me then. You know, it's like, I used to draw, and like, I always felt creative in a way that I could express my way with art, but I didn't never felt like I'd found what that was going to be. Like, what was my true outlet in my medium? And, not until college, I went to school up in St. Augustine at Flagler. It was like just far enough away, you know, but still close to home, hour and a half. And really, I chose to go there because it was close to the beach, and I could surf every day, and it just had the right vibe. I wasn't a big state school kid, you know. I just wanted, you know, something small, something intimate, something on the beach, and something I could do, you know, the things that I love to do. And at that time, it was being on the water. Anyway, so my junior year, I had to fulfill an art elective, and a friend of mine took a photography course, and he's like, dude, you gotta try this. Like, it's epic, you know, like you learn how to process film, you know, it's black and white film photography. So you're shooting, you're processing, you're making prints. And, so I signed up because I had to take some sort of art class. And I feel like that was, I mean, really like the moment they say, like, never look back. My entire junior and senior year in college, like if I wasn't surfing, then I was in the darkroom. And I'd felt like it, like I had just found it, you know, I really did. Like when I picked up the camera and I was able to like take a photo of the way that I see the world, it was like, everything started to fall in place. Like, this is it. This is the medium that I've been looking for. Like, I've always felt creative, but I didn't know how to get it out. And that was it, man. Yeah. That was it. And so, yeah, I took 2 years of, photography and was taught from our teacher was a surfer, and, basically class was, go out, shoot photos, come back, make prints. And then on Friday we'd put them up and have like a little, review of the project. So that was like, and so that was when kind of photography hooked in for me.
So after college, what's your plans? Because you find this thing, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, oh, clicks. This is it.
Yep.
What's next?
Great point. Well, that was the whole thing, because I'd found it so late in my college career. Up until then, I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I mean, I really, like, college for me was like, in some ways, a way to put the brakes on life, right? It was like
kick the can down the road for 4 years.
Right, exactly. I got 4 years to figure something out, like we were kind of talking earlier. It's like I knew something was going to come out of it, but I didn't know what. I was a communications major. I always said from the beginning I wasn't cut out for like a real job, and so I really only had a couple rules for myself, like coming out of college, and that's that I just trust my heart, follow my heart, do something that I love, and like work outside and just don't have an office job. I just didn't want the fluorescent lights, and I had no idea how I was going to do that, so photography came along. At that point, it's just like, I'm just an enthusiast. I'm just like, this is awesome. I'm like going like habitual hobby at this point. And I graduated college in 96, came home and just started just following what I thought was, this gut feeling that I don't really know what I'm going to do. I think I had some internships at a couple places, and I came back. I built a dark room at home. I, bought some more camera gear, and I said, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm just going to keep following it. And it was like, and at that point, it really wasn't like, I'm going to make this a job. It was just like, I love this so much that I'm just going to keep it in the forefront of my everyday. And so I came back and moved back in with my parents, and like I said, built a dark room. At that time, I was shooting a lot of like live bands. I was super into music, so I was, the camera became a ticket to get into a lot of live shows for free, and like photo passes, and it was a way to like kind of cut my teeth a little bit with shooting some things, and I don't know. I think for me, it just the camera was there. And it was like for me, I latched on to the one thing that made the most sense coming out of college, and that was it. And it wasn't like, again, it wasn't like, this is it. I'm going to make a career out of this. I'm just like, I love this enough. It feels creative. It feels like it's from the heart. I'm going to follow it.
So I guess kind of walk through that, because are you just like jamming yourselves into events? It's like, you love live music. Or you just like walking up to the promoter or the event guy and you're like, hey, I'd love to come shoot photos. What can I do? And is like that kind of how you're just almost forcing your way into like, I'm shooting photos now.
Yeah.
Like, is that how that works?
In some ways, yeah. For that, I hooked up with Access Magazine, which was like a local zine that was covering some events. So that was like my first way in, where I was like, hey, I've got a camera, I shoot film, I can cover events. I kind of went through them. And then a lot of it was my own groundwork, where I was, at that time, it was like calling the label on the phone. I'd call the band label and say, hey, I see this so-and-so's coming to play at the Social, or at that time the Sapphire, and I'd love to get a photo pass. And then it was like, fax over your credentials, so I'd like make like a fake letterhead, and I just like fake it till you make it. I was just, and I'd fax over my name on a letterhead and say, put my request in for the photo pass, and started getting granted, some photo passes, some access. And I thought that was the sickest thing. I was like, oh my God, here I am with my camera. I'm down in front of these bands. The first 3 songs, you can shoot the photos of them. And I don't know, it was the first time where I'm like, damn, this feels special. It felt like the camera was giving me, this little invincibility thing. I don't know, it just felt really good.
Key
like,
that you're kind of.
Little key, right? Yeah. It just like this, it was like, it felt really good to have it in tow, and I was capturing things, but I was also like, it was giving me access that I hadn't had before, and that felt really good. So,
all right. So when does the whole wakeboarding thing kind of come into play here? Because you didn't grow up wakeboarding, no? correct? You grew up surfing.
I didn't grow up wakeboarding. I grew up surfing as a kid, skateboarding. Had a big half pipe in the backyard when I was a kid. Yeah, I can show you some pics of it. It was, quarter pipes in the street. Talked my parents into building like a 8-foot half pipe.
Oh, an 8-footer.
Yeah, it was 8 foot. It was huge. I didn't even drop in on that damn thing. I was like, at that time I was like 10 or 11 years old. But I looked up to all the 13, 14-year-olds in the neighborhood and the older kids, and they're like, dude, talk to your parents into building a ramp. And we did. We went in there and presented the whole thing. And so it was awesome. My parents always supported all the action sports things that I was into as a kid. And I think for them, they saw that opportunity as like, we can build a ramp here, have the kids hang out here, be safe. And,
that's kind of good thinking on them.
Yeah. They were a yes to it. I mean, there was a whole slew of like, paperwork and lawyers and shit. We had to I'm sure they had to have like permission forms made, and my uncle's a lawyer, so he was trying to keep it all buttoned up. But, it was the 80s too. For the most part, you can
a little looser.
A little looser. You can take people's word for it that, if someone broke an arm, they weren't going to sue you.
Yeah.
And, so grew up skateboarding, surfing came along, 5th grade, around 10 or 11. And, for me, wakeboarding wasn't a thing. We used to surf when I was a kid. We would go out on the St. Johns River. When I got older, like around 16, 17, my dad had a john boat, and we'd take a john boat out on the river or on a local lake, find a place to drop it in, and we'd just take our surfboards out, connect a 25-foot rope anchor line to a
whatever you had,
to a knot, and go rip around. And like I got some pictures somewhere of us. We just thought it was the most insane thing ever. That was the first time I actually got like this idea, like, it's forever wave. We were super into surfing, but like now we've got this boat, and we would like whip in, let go of the rope, try to do big airs. And I think I was more fascinated with the speed, like with surfing, you're just creating your speed, like you're using the wave and you're creating your own speed. With the boat, it was like, man, this thing could pull me on our surfboard. I was hitting speeds on the surfboard that you weren't ever getting on a wave in Florida. Yeah. So that was my only little dabble with that, but that was, pretty short lived. I never really strapped in.
Kind of farting around on the skirt.
Yeah, totally. It wasn't like, let's take it to the next level. Let's strap in. Let's see what people are doing with skirfers or wakeboards at that time. This is, that was probably late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
And then, so it was surfing for me. Went away to college, came back, and then my first introduction to wakeboarding was, I'd came back fresh with this camera, moved back to Orlando. I had just pulled myself out of, a beach town where I could like be in the water every day. And now I'm back in Orlando or Lake Mary, and I just, I didn't have that access anymore. And at the time, like, people were starting to wakeboard. I had heard word of it. A friend of mine, Tina Bessinger, one of the female wakeboarders at the time, I knew her growing up. Somehow I got in touch with her to see what she was up to. And she had told me that she's like, I'm a pro wakeboarder now. And so it was like this little insight into like, wow, there's a pretty cool thing happening in Orlando. It was like, I'd start to kind of get this idea. And so for me, it all clicked. It was like, oh, cool. Like, all right, so this is like an inland version of surfing. I can come in here and, hang out on the lake, go on a boat. And so I just started to kind of really more dabble. It was like three things coming together. It was like, me coming home from college. It was this slight interest in the sport of wakeboarding, but also I had a camera, and I was pretty anxious to like shoot anything at that point. Like, I love shooting. In college, it was landscapes and my friends, but now I'm like, damn, and then it was live bands, and now I'm like, well, maybe I could shoot some of this stuff, shoot some of the wakeboarding stuff. So I think my first eyes on it were one of the Cranes Roost Nationals or whatever it was called there. Maybe 96 when I came home from college. I went and sat on the shore and watched that competition, the Worlds. And it sat there and watched it. I'm like, damn, this is come a long way from just like ripping around in a john boat and a surfboard. And so I was pretty enamored with watching the sport, just how big they were going, and, double ups and just blasting off this wake. And it caught my attention, for sure. Yeah. And then after talking to Tina and all that, I just put the pieces together. And I don't remember exactly how it went down, but I eventually got out on a boat with some people that were wakeboarding, and just blown away by like what was actually happening.
Okay.
So
So when's the first, monetary exchange for like a photo that you're shooting wakeboarding wise?
Yeah.
And I guess like that next, okay, there's like a path here. I got my calling with photography. Where's the path of like, oh, I can make a living maybe?
Yeah, that was a big point that clicked for sure. And shortly after that, I'd started kind of making my way out to, I'd met a few different people through the grapevine, and I got connected a lot with the women's riders early on. I think it was from the Tina connection. And I got really into it. I ended up meeting, I know what it was. I met Seth Olson, who was an art director at Wakeboarding magazine. And I said, hey, I'm back home for the summer. I'm super into this wakeboarding thing. I've got a camera. I'd love to, kind of start taking photos of this stuff, and I want to learn more about it. You got any tips? And he's like, yeah, go out and shoot and bring some photos in and lay them down on the light table. We'll take a look. And so that started like probably a 6-month exchange where I was like just infatuated with like going out and shooting, coming back, processing the film, taking it up to Wakeboarding magazine, which was in Winter Park, and laying, at first I was shooting negative film. He's like, oh, you can't, no one shoots negative film. You got to shoot slide film. So it was just a super fast learning curve, which I was like eating up at the time because I'd only shot black and white negative film. He's like, you got to shoot slide film. We all want color slide film here. So I started shooting slide film, and then like, I don't know. I'm an achiever. Like, I've learned a lot about my personality type, and it's like, I've always been driven by achievement and wanting to do well on things. Just because I love figuring things out, and some ways I want to be the best at it. I want to figure out how to do it. And so that was just really hit that achiever in me where I was like, dude, I want to figure this out. Like, I want to get really good at this. And just like we were saying earlier, it just provided this opportunity to kind of learn something and like, all right, learn from my mistakes, bring something in. He'd say what works and what didn't work. And anyways, eventually after several trips back and forth, I remember I laid a thing of wakeboard photos down. And he's like, damn, he said, like, started pulling out the slides and setting them aside. And I think it was Nicola Huntridge, who was a female wakeboarder at the time out of West Palm. And he's like, I think we might run this, in the expression sessions or whatever it was, the sessions. Yeah. And anyways, he's like, that's going to run it's a full page in the next issue. And I was floored. I was like, oh my God, I did it. It was like, I achieved it. I figured it out. And anyways, I think it was $150 for a full page. But for me, that was everything. I was like, I never expected to like make money on this. So I'm like, I'm actually able to go out, shoot something that I like. And then, it was like a crack into the door.
Okay.
That this might be possible to like, oh, maybe if I start getting 5 or 6 images each time, then maybe I can survive,
You kind of see the dollar signs begin to maybe add up of like, oh, there's room here maybe.
Yeah. And more, it was less about the dollar signs and more just about that, I'm finding something that like I'm putting everything else aside and I'm just wanting to figure out. So more than anything, it just felt, and I had a great opportunity. I was living at home at the time, it was like still after college, a year after college. So I was just kind of finding my feet still. And so I didn't really need to make much to survive at that point. So I kind of feel lucky that I, had that opportunity. But it started to click that, damn, I'm just going to follow this thread. It feels like I'm enjoying it. I'm learning something. I'm surrounded by a sport that's really got my interest. And maybe I can even sell enough images to like, make $500 a month or something.
And money aside, it's working. Like getting photos published in a legitimate magazine
exactly.
is like proof.
Yes.
Of like, okay, I did something. Like
yes.
It's real.
You're so right. It was like, and coming off of college, there's so much stress with that. Everyone's got the questions like, what are you doing? My parents and family and friends. And it's like a lot of expectations coming out of just, 4 years of school and what'd you get from it? So at that point, I'm like, I could say I was doing something, it was like for
show
myself, like, look at this. I'm like, I took a photo and they printed it in a magazine and like, this is, maybe this will work, maybe I'll be a professional photographer one day. No, at that point I wasn't even saying that. I was just like, I was just stoked that I was, able to have something I say that I was putting my energy towards.
Yeah. I think it's perfect time to dive into a guest question from Rodrigo Donoso.
Oh, Rodrigo.
What's up, Letch? It's Rodrigo. I can't wait to listen to the entire podcast. I wanted to drop in and ask you a question about how you developed your style as a photographer. When I was younger, I used to be able to pick out your photos from the magazine, and I definitely drew inspiration from you. So I was curious if there was anyone that you drew inspiration from, or was your style just born from you shooting photos and the way that you wanted them to look in your own mind?
Wow. Awesome question,
Rod. Good question, Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can put these up now.
Yep.
Yeah, great question, Rod. Thank you. I admire your work so much, man. Big time. Yeah, my style developed. I mean, at the time, really, I was basically trying to find a way to make things look as different as I possibly could, and that's always been part of my personality too. It was like, I never wanted to emulate anything. I mean, I had a ton of inspiration, coming into this sport. It was like, I was looking up to the classics and the greats of like Tom King and Doug Duquesne. And I was, blown away at how they shot photos of wakeboarding. And so there was inspiration there, but my style, honestly, I felt like it came out of, I want to make this sport look different. It really was. It was like, it was driven by how I was inspired by surfing. I was inspired by skate photography. And I was like, I felt like the sport needed a look that wasn't just so attached to boating photography. And it just had this like very polished, clean, blue skies,
almost advertisement feel in a way.
Yeah, in some ways it just had like this. I don't know. It was pretty to look at, but I felt like that's what it was. It was a little polished, and like for me, I was like I was driven by grit and flash photography, which I knew nothing about at the time, but it gave me another thing for me to like dive into and try to figure out. So I always look back and I felt like my style was developed out of just trial and error, and like I was. I remember I used to, all wakeboarding shots were always shot first thing in the morning. It was like sunrise, you got to get out, drive into the sun. Everything was front lit. And I was like, what happens if I just start breaking these rules, or breaking these rules that are like this, that it's been designed this way, that everything has to look a certain way. And so it was like shooting backlit, or like, what happens if you shoot during the middle of the day? They're super shadowed under their eyes, it's like, but what if I bring in a strobe? What if I bring in some of my past of like shooting black and white photography, and what if I do cross processing? I just wanted to push all the boundaries. And I know it sounds kind of cliche to say, but for me at that time when I was, I'm 23 years old, and it was like my first time of getting a chance to like carry this artistic torch, but I could go anywhere I wanted to, and just take it wherever I wanted. So I felt like my style was, yeah, it really did. It just came out of this desire to want to make things look gritty and different and raw, but also then showing, the sport of wakeboarding, like showing what was possible, but showing it in a new way, that wasn't like just emulating something that's already there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's a good question, or good question, good answer. Thank you for that. So
thanks, Rod.
I'm curious if you had a favorite cover back in the day.
Oh man,
you can think of.
Favorite cover. I mean, the first one sticks out to me just because it was super special. Matt Staker, I think it was 98.
Put the photo in
magazine. That one, when I think of wakeboarding, honestly, it's so weird when I think about my history and knowing that I had a lot of different covers. A lot of that, it blends together a lot. But the first one for me is like, there's nothing quite like your first time, It's like I was just so psyched for that, I like that, just getting that first print in the magazine, like we talked about earlier, but then like getting my first cover, I was like, wow, man, like I took a photo that's good enough to be chosen, after just always just shooting for the stars and being inspired by what I saw. It was like, I finally got a chance to like my work got picked to be on there and
to represent the magazine.
The magazine, like to be on the front. And I think I got the front and the back, which I remember was so cool.
Really? Okay.
There was an FM ad on the back, and I just been like just blown away by that. Like my work's on the front and the back and I think both of them were Staker actually, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know. Probably the first one.
Okay. I mean, that's totally fair. That's totally understandable too. I mean, that makes sense. I want to know if you know how many covers you've had with Alliance specifically.
I don't.
I can give you a hint. Over, under 18 and a half.
Under.
No, you got over it. 19.
Really?
Yeah, I was looking back through. You had 19 covers with Alliance.
19 covers. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I have everything saved somewhere. I mean, I have like boxes and all this stuff, but I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah, I was looking through because Garrett has a spreadsheet of all the covers, who it was, where it shot, all that stuff. And I was like, Command F, let's see what Letchworth has. And I was like, 19, okay.
Oh my God. The one with Grubb doing the big rail.
That's number one. That's the first edition.
Yeah. Okay. So again, it must be the first for me, it being that first one. That was super special. You know, just, I think it was because maybe Alliance was fresh, but that one stands out to me too, as just being, and there's something too about getting the first cover, it was.
Well, only one person can do that.
Right.
Ever.
Right. Exactly. And it just I know that we were all at that point really trying to create something special too. Alliance coming in and, their whole stance was coming in with, this alternative version of wakeboarding and what was out there. And so it just felt powerful that we were like, it was a wake skate cover, which back then was kind of crazy, It was, so I just remember that being a big deal, that I felt like we all in some ways, like, vocally and silently, we were all working towards the same goal to legitimize and just make this sport look cool and different and all put our, heads together to do that.
Everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's actually time we get to another guest question from Ben Greenwood. Benny G.
Oh, man.
This is a good one, I will say.
Man, I love Ben. Love you, Ben. Didn't expect all these special guest questions.
There's plenty more. So you're going to have to put those headphones on a couple more times.
It's totally fine.
I know I'm not the only one to feel this way, but you are quite possibly the warmest and kindest human being I've ever met. From when we first met on Lake Placid, where I literally fell into your lap in 1999, to your 50th birthday party 25 years later, I've always witnessed you lead with your heart and compassion. Can you take a second to describe how a beacon of love like yourself deals with things like negotiating your retainer with Quicksilver, or better yet, dealing with an awkward scenario like blissfully walking into the World Pub offices to use their light table to check out slides for ads in Alliance? Love you, buddy.
I love you too, Ben. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a little two-parter. So I think we go first one, negotiating a retainer with Quicksilver. Sounds like there might be something there.
Yeah. I mean, leading with your heart, I feel like, what I got from this question is like, keeping, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I try to keep, the human part into what we do, it's like, I've only really known how to lead life one way, and that's from my heart. And that's just like trusting my gut. And it's, I don't know. I've never really been good at coming up with a front and being tough and being a sales guy. And it's like, I think that's come into who I am as a person. It's like, I don't really love confrontation for one. And I do love the human experience, so it's like, for me, meeting people and making a situation feel warm and inviting is much better than just like creating this front and being standoffish. And so I don't know, that's just naturally how I've kind of always gone into things. And, and then of course that it is interesting what he's saying, that, there's that side. And then how do you bring that into a business too? Yeah. Right. So it's like, now we're fast forwarding into like where I'm getting asked to, to shoot big campaigns. And, he helped me get in the door with Quicksilver, which led to this retainer with them. And, and I'm sitting there still feeling like I'm a kid, even to this day, when I negotiate on the phone, I still feel like, oh my God, like, am I really getting paid to do this? And like, people trust me. It's weird how the little kid stuff comes up, but I don't know. I always just default to lead with your heart, like what, don't try to say something that you think they want you to say. And, and also, but stand up for yourself, be confident. And so, I don't know, negotiating that Quicksilver contract, it was, like I had a taste of what it's like. Cause as a photographer, you're the marketing guy, you're the shooter, you're the sales guy, I had some experience with like learning about prices and cost and, in some ways how to sell myself. So it was, I don't really know exactly how that went down. I know that just some numbers were batted around, and I just stood behind what I felt like it was, what was worthy. And I'm sure at that time I did some research, and the guy I was negotiating with was like the art director, and he was super easy, to chat with. And so I don't know. I think I also try to like keep things feeling a little lighter and a little more simple in the moment. And I think that disarms.
Not so transactional,
yeah. Man. Just, keeping it light and fun. And even though it's a serious matter and, there's money on the table, it's like, I don't know. How do you, and I feel like I've tried to do that with everything in life and with all my shoots and how I am on set, in modern times, it's like, for the most part, people want to have a good experience. Of course, they want you because you know what you're doing and you're a great photographer and can create something special that they want, but they also want a really good experience. So I always try to remember that going into something, that it's like, just like let's make this fun and easy and relatable, and so I would even just take that into my negotiating. I didn't really know any other way. I wasn't trained as a sales guy. So a lot of times it was, just, getting past my inner critic of feeling like I wasn't worthy of something, and then realizing that, okay, great. Like, that's one thing. I'm still a little kid with a camera trying to figure things out, but you're also creating advertising for a company that's making a ton of money on these ads because they're selling things. So it's like, you having to kind of find that fine line of being humble, but also being confident, in what you know your value is. So
interesting. Yeah. Okay. It was a pretty good retainer though with Quicksilver.
I think it was for that time. Yeah. At that time for me, it was, I wish I remember the numbers, but it was, I mean, as a retainer for a photographer back in the day was incredible because, I'd spent at that time, that was maybe 2007, I'd spent 7 years grinding away. And like, for a freelancer to have a company come along and say, hey, how about we just pay you by, each month flat out, and then you go and just take care of all of our athletes and shoot all the photos. And it was just like, oh my God, I don't have to just be in that rat race anymore, so it's just like some breathing room. But then also like, it's also a little scary too, because it's like, it's that first moment, like as a freelancer, you can feel very detached from things where you're like, you get what you get. And if it works, great. When there's a retainer, all of a sudden there's an expectation.
Yeah, you're kind of hired by the company.
You're hired and you're in, and it's like, well, damn, now you've got to come through and perform and get what they want. But, my answer to that was always just, and still is to this day, like, just keep doing what I do. Like, as soon as I start changing up and trying to, try to hit a mark that I feel like is what they want, then I'm out of alignment.
They put you on for a reason.
Exactly.
Because of who you were.
Exactly. So. And I say that to this day. I'm like, even if it's a huge company, whatever, big campaign, I'm like, they're hiring you because of what you do. So just keep doing what you do.
Yeah.
And like, if I want to do something weird and shoot on a strange lens or a weird perspective or whatever it is, then just do it, because that's what my heart's saying. And in some ways, that's why they hired you.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Oh, thanks, Ben, for that, because that was a good
thank
little.
You, Ben. I love you.
That second part though, walking into World Pub offices, run through that, and checking some slides for the alliance.
Yeah,
that's how you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's referring to we would always meet up there. I mean, I was talking about my early days of going in there and laying photos down on the light table and having their art director, at that time look through them, but. Ben and I would always meet up there, and at that time, it was such an awesome space, that they were so great at just letting us walk in there. And it was almost like, it was like an office where like there were a bunch of like corporate heads, it always felt funny. There was a bunch of wakeboarders that would just infiltrate these like, serious offices. But then there was also like this kind of cool, like, the modern day WeWork for wakeboarding, where everyone can just go in there and like, it became like it turned into a social hour, go in there and look at slides and we would make selects for the Quicksilver ads. And it became like a meeting point where we could just go up there, use their light table and, trying to be respectful of what they're doing up there. But they were also really open to just,
that's cool.
Kind of making it like, we didn't really have any other place to meet. So we would just go there and, we'd like, cool, this one's for Quicksilver. This one's for wakeboarding. This one could be a Liquid Force ad, it was great. We could just, divvy up.
Efficient way to get work done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, we would. And it was fun too. And then we'd always end it with some lunch or whatever. But it was a cool place to go and feel connected to the people you were working with.
Yeah. Some people in suits, some people in board shorts.
Exactly. And they would always like come out and like tell us to be quiet. And quickly we'd forget that like, oh yeah, this is a real business going on. We didn't give a shit about that. All we cared about was like taking fun pictures and making the magazine look cool. And we didn't realize that there was a sales team and, a lot of money riding on the table behind all that, but
absolutely.
They were good about it. I think for them, it brought some balance too. Like you said, suits and board shorts, it's a good balance.
You got to have balance for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time we dive into the LF'n Wheel of Questions presented by Liquid Force.
The LF'n Wheel of Questions.
Okay, let's go.
So if you can shimmy on up there and you can kind of slide it down and
see this thing here.
Yeah, we got
there we go.
Should be stuck there. There we go. Yeah. So you can plop it wherever. We got a lot of, for the listeners, we got, quite a bit of camera gear on the table. So if you're interested in checking that out, tune into the YouTube. But so go ahead and Liquid Force likes to make wakeboarding fun. So let's make this podcast a little bit more fun and spin the LF'n Wheel of Questions. So there's some stuff on here. So go ahead.
Those guys. Okay, just spin the wheel.
Give it a spin.
Here we go.
You have to be gentle. There we go. Good spin there. All right. So,
hot take.
Hot take. All right.
Okay.
So
tell me about hot take.
Yeah. Let it rip. Hot take. It can be photography hot take. It can be wakeboarding hot take. It can be life hot take.
All right. Well, tell me more about hot take. Maybe I don't even know this terminology. Like what? Like give me a.
Okay. Danny Harf. I had Danny Harf on last week. He had a hot take on specifically how methods should be done.
Oh.
So kind of like.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. A hot take on something. Okay. I get it now. Oh man. I kind of hit on it before. Again, for me, people just emulating something too much. That just like, I don't know. I've always just been driven by like the only thing that like new creation comes from your own creativity and your own spark and your own ability to like the genesis of something new. And so for me, it's like, I don't know. I can't stand when people in any, whether it's in photography, whether it's in a sport, in music, when it's like, when people get it wrong and it's like the desire to like want to get somewhere is like, let me just do what this person's doing rather than like, okay, you can be inspired by something, you could be inspired by how they're doing it, but like just make it your own, you know, make it your own. And I've always, that's been a big thing. I mean, even like Rod's question, it's okay to be inspired by something, but it's like we have this beautiful opportunity in life that like there's so many unique ways that we can go down a path. And so it's like make yours a very special one, and so it always irks me when people are like, they think the way to being successful or good at something is just like maybe to do it exactly like someone else did it, and it's like, I feel like it just loses the heart and soul and things. And
it's a good hot take.
And they don't realize that like, that it's, that the way there is like is finding their own way and creating their own little path that's going to open up something, not, I don't know. And I feel like people can sniff out stuff that's just being rehashed.
I feel like the majority sniffs it out. Like
Yes.
whether or not they realize it, maybe.
Exactly.
But it's like there's a reason maybe
Yes.
it doesn't latch on like you thought.
Yes.
It would.
Yeah. And I always get frustrated when people like aren't sensitive to that or understand that. Those who are, I feel like maybe over emulating something. It's like, you don't feel that. You don't feel the, you know, and I get it. We all latch on to things for different reasons because maybe we haven't built up that confidence to like take it something in our own direction. But it's like the moment that you stop trusting, you know, you start trusting yourself and stop kind of relying on everything else, you know, everyone else to kind of point their fingers on where you should go. You know, that's when the shit gets good.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. Yeah. But it is a tough line of like taking inspiration without copying. So it's, you got to know that line. And if you feel like you're over it, you're probably definitely over it.
You're right. Because I mean, because of course we have to get inspired by something. Yeah. Something's been created and it's, you know, you look at it and but it should spawn a new idea. You know, it's like take a piece of it and understand what this person was doing, but then how do you make it yours?
Yeah, maybe sit on it for a little bit. You know, don't force it. I feel like that kind of sometimes happens. So, all right, that was a good one. We got a LF'n wild card. So the crew at Liquid Force is wondering, who is the favorite person you've worked with, you know, photography wise, outside of wakeboarding?
Oh, so not wakeboarding.
Not wakeboarding, water sports, anything.
Favorite person that I've worked with. Oh, that I photographed or just worked with?
Let's do photograph.
Okay. That I've photographed. God.
There's a lot of people.
This guy that kind of got me stumped. You know, Ellery, look, when I got into shooting all the Nike stuff there for a while, which was amazing. Ellery Hollingsworth, like she was amazing. Like I always loved when I could find an athlete that I could just completely relax and be myself, and that was super open to ideas, and you know, they come at it without an ego. And I remember that was a big deal then because it was the first time I was kind of breaking outside of wakeboarding and shooting some other sports. And I remember she just really welcomed, you know, my like creativity and my ideas with just a very warm space. And I don't know why that just popped in my head.
Yeah, for a reason though. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. All right. Yeah. Big name right there.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you to Liquid Force for that. We can go ahead and put the LF'n Wheel of Questions back up there.
All right, Wheel, get back up there.
All right. Whew. I think we talk about kind of shifting outside of the wakeboard world because before the podcast, me and you talked about it, and I was kind of interested to hear about like what, I guess, you said you kind of left, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess just kind of paint the picture of what happened.
Yeah. I mean, left might feel a little harsh, but like there was a transition time for sure for me, you know? It's like I spent, you know, if I do a quick little break timeline, it was, you know, 96 graduated college, you know, 98 kind of finding wakeboarding, getting my first print. And then I essentially spent the next 10 years just fine tuning the craft of photography, just diving headfirst into wake, which was amazing. I mean, like to have that sport in my backyard, essentially with like a pool of incredible humans and athletes that I became really close friends with, a group of guys and girls that trusted me. You know, it was a dream scenario, you know. It's like I just want to make sure that I, you know, get the point across that like I am so forever grateful for that time. You know, I don't know if the path that I went through wakeboarding like could happen any other way or any other place. Like it all kind of happened serendipitously for me. Like it happened to be at a time when I could afford to take a risk and happen, you know, at a rate that I could manage. And it was great. It was a sport that was changing. It was one that I could, you know, put my time in to get better at something that I was working on. And then it was an unlimited resources of people and lakes and boats. But to get to that so I basically did that. So for 10 years, just I stayed in that. Every day was like, you know, essentially get up, go and shoot, process film, look at it. You know, my life revolved around it. And you know, I worked my way up to senior photographer at wakeboarding, and, you know, I got the accolades. I mean, I got all the biggest clients. I was shooting for Hyperlight and Liquid Force and Quicksilver, and it was like, you know, every brand. I was like, it was like a dream, you know. I had like made my way, where I was trusted by everyone in the industry, you know, and that's incredible, you know. It's like all you could ever ask for, as far as like, you know, as far as achieving you know, a quote unquote career, you know. And so it, yeah, so I just kept chasing it, and, you know, worked my way up and won, you know, Wake Photographer of the Year several times. Basically what I'm getting at is that, like, anything eventually has a life cycle. And for me, it was like, you know, it was always there, but like for me, it was always about, you know, wanting to like fine tune something more, or like, what's the next step, or like and graduating, or like, and also getting through a burnout, you know, getting through something that started to feel like, okay, I've done all these things, and like, it was starting to feel a little stale, you know. Like for me, it was like, God, I feel like I've done so much. I've traveled the world with all these people, and so I was at that time just starting to kind of look for something, I don't know, something else that I could then. I wanted to get back to that beginner's mindset, you know, where I didn't feel like a beginner anymore. You know, I was just in it, like doing it. I knew what it took to get good pictures. I could do it fairly easily, and it started to become a little less fun. And I mean, for me, the transition started when around like 2009, which would have been like 10 years into it. By any means, it wasn't a hard cut at that point, but like in 2009, I started shooting a lot with the Nike wake skate team. You know, like Silas and those guys they had brought wake skating into this Nike brand, because he had just moved back home, and that was like, that got my attention. Is like, this big brand is like picking up this little sport that, you know, at that time just felt like it was run out of the back of a truck, you know. And anyways, but that was like, I started shooting a lot with them, and then that opened up this door. I shot this whole campaign for Nike 6.0 with the wake skaters, and I remember the big moment of like that campaign landing with the big, you know, higher ups or whatever, like Silas's bosses back at Nike, and they presented this opportunity to start shooting some other sports. They're like, hey, you know, we love what you're doing here. This is incredible. Like 6.0 is comprised of like, you know, motocross and surfing and skiing. And like, so we actually want, you know, snowboarding. We want you to do what you did here. And now can you do that with all these other sports? And then we'll bring you on. And it tested me out with a couple of the other sports, and then eventually led to a retainer. But that, I see that as a big notch in the timeline for me, because it was the first time that I had been opened the door to some other sports. That was like, it was always just wakeboarding and boating and marine. And then it was like, wow, like what I'm doing and my style is respected enough that this also works in other sports, you know, the way that I capture people. And, you know, it wasn't just always trying to be good at, you know, taking a really good action photo, you know, like that for me was like, I don't know. I feel like I got to that fairly quickly. Like what I was always striving for was how do I create like a vibe and an energy around the people that make it up? Like, how do you like kind of help tell the story of a culture, you know, and like, especially one that was so young, that was being developed. It was like, I kind of felt like we had an opportunity to like, you know,
mold it.
Mold it. Yeah, mold it, and then like tell the story of it. And so I was just so drawn to that. And I look back and I feel like that was a huge part of my success as a photographer, that I wasn't just like, you know, someone who would go out and just like get a really cool, you know, tack sharp action shot. You know, I wanted to tell the story of what this person did when they finished wakeboarding, you know, when they sat in the boat, when they were like getting up in the morning. And, you know, I always loved stories, and I loved, you know, snowboarding magazines, skate magazines, surf magazines. And I always loved the photos that were like the moment before, you know, or the moment after. It's like, and awesome portraits. And so I just made it a big thing a big goal of mine to put a lot of energy towards that, like learning how to capture people and tell stories. And I'm kind of merging two parts of, two things here, but that was always my goal as I started to kind of graduate, in the sport of wakeboarding, was like, I always wanted to like have that grit and tell that story that wasn't always on the water. Yes, but it could, you can tell the story of what happens behind the boat or in the water, but then also, make sure that you take an opportunity to, show who these people are, show their personalities, and tell the other part of the story. And so I think that led to other brands becoming interested, that it was like, most photographers that are in a sport, it's like, okay, they just shoot the action stuff, they're like, man, but it was really starting to catch on that lifestyle and like telling more of the story of the people was really becoming, a lot more popular, and people were more interested in that. It wasn't just like a cool trick. It was like, I want to see what Parks is doing in his house, like afterwards, or so there was just this desire to want to kind of peel back the layers a little bit and like, and tell a bigger story.
Okay. So Nike was a big kind of stepping stone, I guess, could you say, at that point in your life?
It was a big stepping stone because it was the first time that I had been opened the door to some other sports. They trusted me enough. They said, hey, we love what you're doing here. Like, let's try you out with our group of surfers, our group of snowboarders. And it worked, and I got on retainer for like 2 years with Nike 6.0 and traveled the world, shot all those different sports and athletes. So at that time, my mind was blown because I went from like this pool of, athletes that I'd known so well and become close friends with to now I'm like have access to a whole another set of athletes that I can like apply, it's like reading a book. It's like now I have a whole new set of books that I can open up and learn about, and it's like, and learn how to shoot that sport, but also learn about how to tell that person's story. And that was kind of the start of where that just, inevitably it just started taking up more of my time. I was where I had nothing but time before with the wakeboarding when I was just doing wakeboarding, but now we went to Indonesia twice. I was out in California and Hawaii, Tahiti. They were flying me all over to shoot all these athletes. I was going up to Ellery's home and, up in the Northeast and it just became like this crazy whirlwind of 2 years of travel. And my mind was blown that I was being trusted. And so, it was like, oh man, there was this feeling of like, like I had kind of left the sport of wakeboarding a little bit. There was a departure. I just didn't have the amount of time anymore. And so I was like, I'd come back. I was still shooting it a lot, but I just had less time. Yeah. And there was more attention towards other things. And it was also, rightfully so, it was just getting my attention at the time because it was fresh and it was exciting and it was new. And it was, like I said, I was able to fine tune what I was doing and get better at it. And also, like I said, just read a whole new set of books.
How was shooting on snow? I mean, had you shot in anything snow before the 6.0 days?
Not really.
So how was that transition?
Yeah, I mean, that was insane. And at that point, I had done a few Ski-Doo campaigns. Okay. Like I got in with BRP for a while and, would get out there and have to shoot snowmobiles on the snow, which I had to dabble a little bit, but I'm a Florida boy, man, coming from the flatland. And I remember going out there with those guys and like, it was tough and humbling, coming from this pond of wakeboarding and feeling so comfortable at knowing what I was doing and then just, literally fish out of water, knowing that I could capture it, but just understanding how it worked, like getting from point A to point B, walking through the snow, being at high altitudes, trying to understand the angles and, just terrain works, I just like, for me, it was a learning curve. It was a wake up call, and like more than anything, just physically demanding, I understood how accessible things were on water and when things are flat. But yeah, I remember I was shell shocked. And also coming into it was like being a new kid at a new school too. It's like these guys have their guys and girls that they've shot with before.
Got the crew.
They got the crew and they're tight. and I came from a very tight crew, so I was familiar with what that's like, and knowing that like I'm now hanging out in a new neighborhood and a new clique, you know, kind of earning my respect a little, you know, not, and also just how humbling it was to not know a sport as well as a sport I'd known so well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, God, I'm, you know, looking at, you know, really good snowboarding photos and just, you know, beating myself up that it's like, my stuff doesn't look like that. But again, then I would just go back to like, just do it the way you do it, you know?
You're here for a reason, man.
Here for a reason, man. Just, and tell your story, tell their stories, shoot the portraits, make it fun, you know? And at that point, really, they were more interested, and Nike was more interested in me just kind of like capturing their culture and their lifestyle. And there's a little bit of action stuff, but so it was super fun. You know, I feel like that's where a lot of the good stuff lives, you know, is when you kind of got to break out of that comfort zone, you know, you get uncomfortable and get into a place that just feels like I'm not really familiar with this. And, okay, that's the good stuff.
So I got a couple stupid questions that we'll get into later, because I'm photography, you know, illiterate basically.
I love stupid questions.
So does like the whiteness of the snow totally change how you shoot photos?
Yeah, good point. I mean, definitely in the film days, you know, when you shoot film, it's, you know, something you'd have to take into consideration. Nowadays, it's much easier to make, you know, you can make adjustments and, you know, dial down your highlights. But yeah, there's a lot of light coming off the snow for sure. So, but you've got to be careful that you're not exposing for the snow too much, because if you expose for the snow, then everything else is going to go dark, you know, because you just got this insane light source popping. You know, and a lot of times you know, you'd think like, you know, if you're reading your meter, it's saying like, you know, oh my God, you should be at this high shutter speed and high aperture. But really it's, you know, it does fool the camera. You know, it's like basically saying like, dial your camera down because there's way too much light coming off of this. But, you know, probably the biggest beginner's mistake would be to underexpose everything, because you're exposing for the snow, and it's, you know, so you just have to, you know, find the balance of knowing that you still want, you know, you want detail in the snow, but you also don't want, you know, to get too many shadows and too much darkness and shade on the people or whatever you're shooting.
We'll dive into photography a little bit more, because like I said, I've got probably a couple more stupid questions. But I think before we do that, we dive into the Slingshot Silhouette Challenge presented by Slingshot. So we were talking about this one. I think this was before we started recording, but we've got three photos. And I have, you know, kind of blacked out, silhouetted out who the riders are. So that's the third one. So we're going to go number one here. I'll slide it over to you, and I will put it on the screen for the viewers. These are all covers of Alliance. So your goal is to guess who the rider is and maybe who shot it.
Rip Curl Tyga.
Yeah. I don't know. This is the older one for sure. Early 2000s, I would say.
Man.
The Rip Curl, I would say, is a big hint. Should be a big hint.
God, why am I not thinking Rip Curl, Tyga? I mean, I was going into like Charlie Patterson, but
you did shoot this, by the way.
I did?
This is one of your 19.
Oh, my brain's so shot.
This is 20 plus years ago.
Oh my God.
Aussie, I'll give you that. Aussie. I mean, the Rip Curl, that's kind of where I was going with that.
Daniel Watkins?
Daniel Watkins, yep.
Oh, God.
There you go. So I'll give you, a quarter point for that one.
All right, yeah, I don't deserve any points for that. I can't believe it was my photo. I didn't even know it.
I mean, you shot a lot of stuff. Yeah. All right, so here's number two. I didn't even have to black this one out. That's how the photo was, you know.
Oh man.
The tone
okay.
low.
This is, I'm pretty sure that's Ben Greenwood driving.
Okay. All right.
Driving this. Yeah. I think it looks like him.
That looks like the hat's a Benny G hat.
Yeah. This is on, God, dude, who is that? This is on, what's the big lake in Claremont? Minnehaha.
Could be. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah. Oh man.
You also shot this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely remember shooting this. And
name starts with a C. I'll give you that. Does that help? It's a cover.
Is this? Is this Colin Harrington?
No.
Oh my
Cyril,
God.
you know who that is?
Wait, say it again.
Cyril, or is that how you say his
Oh
name?
yeah,
Cannaro?
Cyril. Yeah. Okay, yeah, got it. Yes.
I mean that is the hardest.
This was
one.
the
You
tricky
can't hardly
one
see
for
shit
sure.
on that one.
Only because, but I do remember. Yes, he was in town. This has definitely been driving. This is out on the lake in Claremont, and Cyril. Yeah, I think Cyril.
Yeah.
Okay, I've failed twice.
Well,
this is
okay.
horrible.
To your credit, people were saying these are way too easy. People were getting them first try. So
Really?
maybe I overcorrected a little bit. I'm going a
you
little
had
too
some?
hard.
Okay.
I had, we've been doing it for
Okay.
like 10 or 12 episodes, and I think I had too many easy ones. So
Okay, got it.
all right, this one, this one might not be any easier. I'll tell you didn't shoot this one. I'll tell you that. A little backside wall ride, I think, here. Man. It's a tough one. And a rider you probably wouldn't expect to be doing this, maybe.
Is that Danny Harf?
No. It's Canadian.
Not Rusty.
It is Rusty.
It is Rusty.
It is Rusty.
Rusty
yeah.
hitting the rail.
That's what I'm
backside
saying.
slide like this. Wow. Okay.
I think I might have
well, he does hit
overcorrected.
rails, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily think that he would hit that.
Not that trick.
Not
Well,
that trick.
no.
I would picture he'd maybe be up on the top
On the
part
top.
of this thing, you know?
Right? Yeah. So shot by Ryan Dodd, I believe, is what who shot that one.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for all the hints. I feel like I totally failed at that segment. And I'd like to say that I have a photographic memory, but I think I just proved to myself that I don't.
We can blame my printer. It's low on toner.
Yeah.
It's been low
on
for
toner.
6 months.
And you did.
They're black and white.
Yeah,
A
it's
little
black and
ode,
white.
little ode throwback, black and white. Just my printer's black
Daniel
and white.
Watkins cover. I wonder what year that was.
We could look through after and pull it up.
Yeah, that was like I was getting really into that all that night photography and strobes and all that.
Yeah, so some cool
Sorry,
ones.
y'all.
Obviously,
I feel like I kind of failed at that, but
well, no, I mean the people want to see people fail. I think is what they wanted. They said it was too easy.
Congratulations, y'all.
Yeah,
I did it.
There you go.
No, that's awesome. I do like this one of
that is a
Cyril
cool one,
and Ben. That's cool.
I picked that one up.
Kind of forgot about that cover.
Yeah,
and beautiful.
And this kind of is telling what you're saying of not like I can shoot the trick and get a great boned out indie grab,
right?
But it's not. There's more, you know what I mean? Like, and there's nothing wrong with a great boned out indie grab photo, but
you see how I was drawn to this immediately because, like, see for me, like you're seeing a little more of the story. You know, it's like I like me and Justin Stevens used to always talk about like the process evident. Like that was a term we'd say a lot, but it was like it became really fun to see a little bit about more than just what was there, like to see behind the veil a little, behind the curtain. And I just thought that was cool, like this, that it brought in Ben and like there's Chase Boat and like it brought a little more into like the process of what it takes. And we're shooting backlit and it's not like we're like, reinventing the wheel here with what we're doing, but but to me, when I look at this photo, it has a little more of a story to it.
Yeah. 100%.
Rather than just like, oh, sick grab, or perfectly lit in the sky, it's like, I don't know. Like when I see this, I want to know more about it. Like even myself, I'm looking at it like, I don't know, like what was Ben thinking and what were we doing? And, I want to know more about this crew of people.
Ben was thinking about that Quicksilver retainer. That's probably what he was thinking about.
Exactly.
All right. So I think we kind of keep diving into photography because I feel like we haven't really, fully gone in yet.
Sure.
And another stupid question, like I told you I had a couple of. What makes a photo good in your eyes?
What makes a photo good? It's perfect timing of that question. It just what we just kind of hit on for me. Yeah. I've always said, I have it written down somewhere in my office where it's like, it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. And it's like, I feel like when I say that, I think a photo needs to make you ask questions, It's like, just what you just even that, great, the cool flash pop, it doesn't, it's intriguing and it's pretty and there's lots of things that make a photo good, but for me, like to get down to it, and that's why it's like I love storytelling and like getting the the people and the portraits, because I think a photo it makes you want to ask more questions. Like I want to know more about what was going on there. I want to know what happened right before this. I want to know what this person was thinking. Like this is emoting something, and I want to know what it is. And it's like, and sometimes you might not ever get that question answered, and that to me is it. Like there should be a mystery to photos, when you look at some of the, any photo that in my eyes that like draws me in, it's like there's something intriguing about it, and it's usually, and like I love shooting people, so it's, I guess you could say something different about an Ansel Adams landscape. Maybe it's like what's great about that is also mysterious. Like what's it like to be standing in that place and watch the moonrise? But for me, I like when there's just something about it that you don't quite get and you want to know more about.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I mean, I'm obviously not a photography guy, but like I'm just running through my head of like photos that have stuck out to me in the past, of whether it's an album cover or it's magazine photo. It's like, you look at it for a long time, or longer than you should look at a photo, right? Where it's like, or you normally typically do. So that's interesting to hear you put words to it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. It's like and I'll strive for that, is especially when you're shooting portraits, to like find a way to like just find that little sliver of a moment that feels like different and mysterious, or like emote something that's going to make someone ask a question.
Yeah, ask a question. That's good. You mentioned Ansel Adams. So when I was a kid growing up, we had a bunch in my dentist's office, there was a bunch of Ansel Adams photos, and they always stuck out to me. Is he someone that, or like, is that a big inspiration to you?
It was. I mean, early on, it was in, taking black and white photography in college, and, he was like probably my first introduction to seeing what a black and white image could look like, and I had a little short stint of getting caught up in wanting to learn how to shoot landscape photography. So, late 80s, early 90s, even before I found photography, it was like there was this little cult following of Ansel Adams and some of his prints and some of like the goth and alternative things I was into. I remember there being a lot of like Ansel Adams prints and posters at some of the music stores, but I just was always intrigued by his work. And then as I got older, learning just what went into creating a photograph for him, just going out in this Woody wagon and setting up a tripod, which was totally different than like what I really, anything that I fell in love with photography. Like, mine was always more in the moment, capturing something, reading something. Like his is way more just planned out and thought through, I feel like my work's much more spontaneous, but it's nice to be inspired and see something that's like totally different. I like shooting at a super shallow aperture, and he was about shooting at f/64, which is like everything sharp, everything in focus, and that never caught on to me, but I was still just intrigued by his ability to make a landscape look a way that he saw it, in a way that no one else could see it.
Yeah. It was a dentist office when I was a kid, and I'm still remembering that it was Ansel Adams, and there were several photos. So obviously and super popular, right? Like a very well-known photographer, and his photos are very popular. So
kind of a cool story on that really quick is that that I just recently, I had an inkling. I'd heard something about this. Both of my grandparents have since passed, but my uncle just gave me an original Ansel Adams print. He's like, your grandmother wanted you to have this. My grandparents bought an 8x10 Ansel Adams print from Ansel Adams in Yosemite back in the late 1960s. And they had it in their house when I was a kid, and I don't think I was ever really pointed it out. And then as I started to get into photography, I'd heard some rumblings about it. And for my 50th birthday, he gave me the print.
Sick.
So I have an 8x10 Ansel Adams.
Got to be some rare. I mean,
it's
right?
insane. And it's printed by him, signed by him, and it's like I have goosebumps thinking about it because it's it's silly that's him. He was one of my like original inspirations, but he was, and so to have that, I don't know, it just feels really special. It feels like quite a gift to receive. Not only was it a special story that my grandparents got a chance to meet him. And this is back when he would just sell prints out of the back of his car, and that they held on to it. And I get to
that's
put it
rad.
in my house and look at it and share it with others and be inspired by it. So
awesome. Okay. So kind of the yin and the yang here. This is talking some positive stuff. Let's talk some negative stuff. Has there ever been a time when you either thought you got the shot, but then you get the film back and you messed it up, or the lab messed it up? This is kind of from Garrett Cortese. He's wondering.
Yeah. Oh, totally. One goes right to mind. I blew it on a Fox shoot once, and like this was, oh man, Danny Harf and Sean Murray. I had been trying to get in with Fox for a while. I just feel like that was like, you know, like even brands and you know, things were like different cliques back then, you know, obviously like the different wakeboarding gangs and all that. And for some reason, Fox was just a really tough one for me to get in with. And I remember they finally broke away. I think they used Joey a lot at the time. He always got great stuff for him. You know, it's just certain people just shot certain clients, and I had wanted to shoot Fox stuff, and I had been asked to go out to Morgan Hill and do a shoot out there. And with them, I was like, I was super nervous. I was always nervous when it was like a new client, because it's like, you know, will I pull it off? Will I be as good as the last time I did this? And anyways, I went out there and shot like 3 or 4 days, brought 25 rolls of film back to the lab. At this time, I had been using a very reliable lab that I had known forever. This was right around the time when like digital was coming on and labs were falling apart because it just wasn't, you know, it wasn't lucrative for them anymore. So the quality started falling off because they just, you know, like the big labs, the ones that, you know, used to do it, were just finding that they couldn't sustain. Anyways, at the time, it was like 2 people broke away from the lab to start their own lab. I trusted them, took the film there. They ended up fogging the film. They didn't have their shit dialed, you know, and there it came out, but like there were a ton of, like, most of the shots just had this like red hue to it, and it wasn't like this cool film burn. You know, there's like, I mean, there's great when you get a little lucky film leak here and there, but yeah, but that goes down as like one of the times that it rocked me, because I think I had enough salvageable stuff to, like, you know, get the job and get it to them, but we were scraping, you know, to like, and that was a huge blow, man. I just remember being, you know, again, like coming from someone who just wants to do great all the time, you know, and then realizing that there's some things that are just out of your control.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that was the thing. And same with digital. I mean, you can only control so much, and then there's some things that are out of your control, you know, and I can't believe we trusted as much as we did. You'd shoot it on rolls of film, carry it through airport scanners, take it home, you know, get it home safely, get it to the lab, trust them that the chemicals wouldn't screw up, and then hope that there was an image there. I mean, I think honestly that was maybe one of the only times that I had like a major mess up. I've had some maybe 1 or 2 rolls messed up before, but like this was like a job that I was hired to go out and do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a big hit. So sorry, Fox. I don't think I ever got hired for them again either. Rightfully so. I mean, you know, it was kind of a test anyways. They had like mainly shot with some other people, but
yeah.
But yeah,
it happens.
It happens. It happened to me.
Yeah. All right. So you were talking about breaking rules earlier, and I'm curious if you have any advice to some young cats trying to get into photography.
Yeah.
Because you said, I think I read in an interview, you know, a couple of days ago when I was kind of doing some research for this, and you were saying like break the rules. Don't be afraid to break the rules. Yeah. Do this, and you kind of mentioned how you did that. But I'm curious if there's anything else you want to touch on in that.
I mean, that for sure. And then I don't know. I feel like my answers changed now that I'm 50, where I'm like, just the newer generation, I just ask that people slow down. You know, I feel like we're in this world now where like everything comes at you so quickly that I feel like there's an expectation even on ourselves to learn something fast. The learning curves have gotten longer, which might be great because it's like, yeah, in a month you can be off and running, but I think my advice would be to slow down and learn the basics. You know, I would even go back, you know, old school and say, learn to shoot on film, you know, like learn the camera, learn what it's doing, understand the science behind it, you know, what an aperture is doing, like what's actually happening, you know, or basically what a digital camera is doing that's emulating what, you know, real light and what, what would happen in a film camera with the, the shutter opening, the light comes in, through a certain aperture size, it burns the film. It's like, I think just really understanding what's happening.
Yeah.
I think so many people were just like, cool, look at it, take a picture, done. I can see it. This is great. I'm going to try to make it look like that. I think there's just an importance to understand what's going on, some of the, the basics, and then some of the science behind photography, and and taking your time with it and learning some of the traditional ways, and then applying that
to the new,
rather than to the new, because everyone's shooting digital now, which I understand, but I think there's something that can be learned from it's like it'd be like a wood crafter, right? It's like maybe learning how to do it on some older tools, so you understand, and then bringing in some tools that might, make it easier. But I think you might benefit from kind of doing things the original way.
Yeah, maybe learning on a wakeboard with fins and then going without fins. I don't know. I'm trying to relate it to what my brain can do. All right, so talking about breaking the rules, though. Yeah. So, like, what would that look like today, maybe? Like, you get any examples or anything you can think of where it's like, man, like, trying to break in and you want to break some rules. Like, what is that? Photography rules? Like, social rules?
Yeah, it could be. I think it's just finding, what's a way that you can crack into something that's not being, a way that's not being used a lot. Maybe it's the way that you go about street photography and the way you approach people. Maybe you are invading someone's personal space. And that sounds funny, but like, I mean, there's a way, like maybe it's something shocking. It's something you're just, I don't know, breaking out of the norm and just doing something different. It's hard to say what that would be rather than just like, I mean, if it comes down to like, to make a particular look, then it's, maybe you're doing some sort of method that's giving it a new look. I don't know, a different lens, I don't know, post-production, or the way that you process an image, or I don't know. I think that's really going to have to be
just case by case.
It's a case by case. I just think that you just got to be finding a way to stretch a little bit and just avoid a well-beaten path.
Yeah. So I'll show you some photos of this girl, but she's in wakeboarding right now, and there's not a ton of photographers, I feel like, that are actually trying to do the photo thing.
Yeah.
Her name's Deddy, and she is going to all the events and stuff, and she shoots really different photos.
Yeah.
It's photos to the point where, like, I see them, and I'm like, whoa, that's totally different than, like, a point and shoot, like, whatever.
Yeah.
There's got all these different things she's doing, and it's, like, sticking out. And to me, that's like, I don't know if she's quote unquote breaking the rules, because I don't know photo rules and stuff, but I'll show you after. I think they're really cool. And like, that's just someone that comes to mind, where in wakeboarding, such a small world now, there probably isn't room for a lot of photographers like there used to be.
I mean, I love what you're saying, and that's exactly it, So, and sometimes you can't really answer what that is. It's like, what is it about that made it look different, right? Because she obviously is putting energy into going at something that's been captured so many ways, and sometimes it's not even by trying too hard. It's just like, hey, how can I? Sometimes it's great to be a beginner in a new environment, because you actually don't have too much influence coming into it. I mean, it's like, if you're new to this wakeboarding scene, or maybe she's not, but sometimes it's really nice because at that point you've got a fresh set of eyes. You can look at it, you can capture it in a way that's you're not being influenced by a bunch of stuff that you've seen.
Yeah, and just beating down the same drum of everybody
else.
Else.
Exactly. And so I respect that. It sounds like she's found it, found a way. And sometimes it doesn't always happen from trying really hard. You just see things in a unique way, and I think that's important, that you're just bringing yourself into it. What can you bring into it? The way that you see it, with our own unique eyes, that might be different than the way others do.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of right now, and I'll show you this, and I'll put the photos in now, but there was a team contest wakeboarding, and she had just had this like super wide fisheye and had all the people's faces, like they were huddled around it, like doing their own personality thing. And it was like, whoa, I haven't I haven't seen something like this in a long time. It was really cool. The personalities, the stories.
That's amazing. You know, that's one of the coolest things about photography that always blows me away. It's like someone can have same lens, same camera, same film, whatever, same subject, but yet you're going to get different photos every time. And then that's that mysterious part that you really can't understand. You know, it's where that, you know, she's seeing that, and that she has this little circumstance, this thing in front of her, and that's the way that she chooses to go down and show the world, you know?
Have the confidence to capture it too.
Exactly.
That's probably a hard part.
Totally. And like having an idea that might feel stupid, you know, that's a big one, you know, and just being like breaking through that and saying, I'm just going to do this anyways, because this feels like what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then it really capturing some attention and getting some eyes. But that always amazes me though, when I can look at other people's work and I'm like, you know, I get inspired all the time where like, how does someone create that with the same camera, with the same person, same lights, whatever it is, you know,
it's got something else.
It's just something else to it, you know, and that's the beauty of any art really, is that, you know, we have that ability to bring ourselves into it.
Yeah.
And that's our unique substance, you know.
Absolutely.
Us, you know?
All right. So we've been talking about photos a while, and it's no secret, obviously, the media landscape has changed since the early days of what we've been talking about photography a lot. I got a couple questions. One, is photo ever going to die? And if it was, would it have already happened by now?
God, you know, there's a lot of talk about the AI stuff.
And I've got a lot of people that nobody specifically wanted to be the one to ask, but they're like, can you ask Josh about AI?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, you know, I head on a swivel. I'm aware of that. I am not a tech person at all. So I think my answer would probably be pretty jaded and slighted in the direction that I just, you know, I came from the film days. I just feel like there's still nothing, you know, to the point we were just saying, there's nothing that quite matches the human creation, you know, like the eye and so there's something about in that moment and that, you know, human brain power and creativity and spontaneity in that moment coming up with something. I mean, it definitely is haunting. You hear it on, you know, on big sets all the time, you know, half the, you know, art direction and, you know, the go-bys on sets these days are like all been created in AI. You know, it's like, we want to get this shot. And sometimes I'm looking at it and I'm like, damn, it looks pretty good like that, you know? So it's a legitimate fear to have something that's, I don't know, AI freaks me out, man.
I think right now it's freaking everybody.
Yeah, it just freaks me out. Like it just feels icky. It doesn't feel human.
Icky,
you know, and I choose not to put too much energy. I mean, I definitely have I have a characteristic that will kind of put the head in the sand on things I don't really want to go into. And so I think that's one of them, you know, and somebody like, you got to embrace it. Come on. You know, it's AI, it's what's next. But I don't know. I don't always believe that either. You know, it's like, I believe that you can kind of carry on in the way that you're doing things and find your own way to navigate and to migrate into a new way that might not be like just, you know, hanging up the camera and learn how to create an AI image.
Type in an AI thing.
Yeah. I mean, even the chat GPT stuff, and like when people are like, you know, they're writing, you know, love letters to their families, you know, it's been created. I'm like, what is this all about? Like, can you just come up with something, you know, like don't write a birthday card, you know,
what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. They want to hear from you, you know, it's like, they want to hear from you, not you telling a machine what it should say, you know, it's, I think, you know, just as an age old argument, you can go into vinyl, you can go into film, you know, that when there's a soul to something that needs to remain, I think, in order to have it feel like it's, you know, still in the human experience, you know? And it's like, if we take all of that out and we just put all of our eggs into like just letting things be created without our input, then
what are we here for?
What is this such life thing here? You know, I mean, really, like, yeah, you're so right. Why are we here? So it's like, I think we get so caught up on wanting to just find ways to make things easier. And we're in this tech age of like, yeah, it has made life easier in a lot of ways, but we got to find the line somewhere. You
yeah.
know?
Maybe like in the future, you know, how in the past Wakeboarding Mag used to run like photos with a shirt over a life jacket, but then the bottom right they'd have life jacket certified.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future we'll have human created certified.
Exactly.
And that's the only stuff people want to see.
Made by a human. Yeah, totally. I know. I hope so. That'll become more and more important to make that distinction.
Yeah, it will. All right. So I think we kind of pivot. So we did talk about you going from, you know, the wakeboard world outside of the wakeboard world. And we got a not a Patreon question. We got a guest question here from Chase Hevner.
Is this headphones time?
Headphones time.
Headphones time, Chase Hevner.
Josh Letchworth, Chase Hevner. I'm very amped to listen to your Grab Matters podcast. Grab Matters has done such a good job of bringing people on to tell their stories and my interpretation in hopes of giving something back to people coming into it now so that they can learn from the people that have done it before them. And you're obviously one of those people. And so my question is, you have built a full-time career out of being a photographer, and you started out in wakeboarding, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this already, but maybe you could get a little more specific on what those things are that you feel like you've done, whether it's been intentional or not intentional, that have really created the playing field for you to succeed outside of wakeboarding. I think people come into wakeboarding a lot of times to build a craft and to hone their skills in hopes that there's a career on the other side of it. And you have done that. And so I think if you could give people some advice on what you've done specifically, it would be really interesting to hear, certainly for me. But I think also for, you know, anyone listening who's thinking about getting into it.
Yeah, we did touch on quite a bit of that, but
yeah.
If there's anything else you got?
Yeah, thanks, Chase. It's always nice to hear your voice.
Thank you, Chase.
Very well articulated. Yeah, I mean, my first answer is like, I just didn't quit, you know. I just said, you know, I'm going to keep going, and I'm forcing this career to happen. I'm going to will it into existence. There's some of that for sure. And I think, yeah, awareness, you know, about what feels right. I mean, I say a lot about like following your gut and trusting your instincts, but it's important. I think I think you do have to live with a sixth sense of what feels right and when something's time to move on from, and when, you know, that you do have to be aware of opportunities and when there's like, God, I see a potential here. I see where what I do could fit into this. And you have to be aware of when something's starting to stick and make sense. Like, wow, I noticed that, you know, shooting my lifestyle stuff, my ability to capture, you know, a spontaneous expression in a moment that like tells a story, you know, you do have to know what you're good at, you know, and you start to hone in your style and the way that you shoot and the way that you work. And then you get more confident at sticking to that and knowing that this is how I do things and it's unique. You know, it's like, you know, I'm always trying to remind myself of that. Like, this is how you do things. You don't have to do it like everyone else. Like the way that you disarm people in front of you, the way that you create energy and feel, you know, magnetic or put someone at ease that's in front of the camera. So it's like, it's remembering and noticing. It's more, I think it's awareness, like having the awareness, you know, having the awareness to know what you're good at and what you're not. And that's another good thing too. I think that comes up a lot with like the emulating, you know, you can be inspired by something that, wow, this person does like super intricate lighting and it's great. And it's like, it's something, but I'll look at it and go, but that's not me. Like I can't do that. And I'm super psyched on this person because it's beautiful, but it's like, I've learned what I'm good at and what I'm not, you know, and that's just not the way I shoot. So I think in order to have a successful career, you do have to know what you're good at and what you're not. And then just keep following that thread where it goes and be willing to flex and like, oh, now it's leading me into the outdoor lifestyle. I'm into this footwear thing where it's cool. I'm able to tell a story with Teva. I shot with them for 7 years. And now I'm like, wow, now I'm starting to align my interests as an angler. So now I'm like getting to tell a story in the fishing, in the hunting community. So it's being aware about what the things that you like, and what, what's not trending, but what are also people seeing about your work that they want to bring in, to their business or brand, and staying with it, man. Just staying consistent, staying, beating the self-critic, not letting it run the show, and knowing that it's there, honoring that part that comes up and says, you're not good enough, or you should give it up, or this sucks, this isn't good as last time, and just saying thank you for your opinion, but I'm going to keep going.
Grain of salt, we're moving on, buddy.
Yeah. So, and it's wild to think that I'm 50 now. I've been having like a professional photography career, if I count the wakeboarding years, obviously, over 25 years, 28 years of doing it. And I've gone through several phases of burnout and like, fuck it, I'm just going to torch it all. And I'm just, I don't know, there's just something that's come up, sometimes where I'm like, it's time to move on. There's a part that comes up and says that sometimes, and then I settle down, and then I rethink things. It's really helpful to like go through my work and go through things that inspired me about what I've already created, and like, how do I bring some of that back to the surface, or like shine some new light on it, or find a new way to, maybe it's a style that I wanted to explore more, that I started going in, that I can, so sometimes it's just, you're going to feel this burn, or like that I want to move on. And then I've had moments of just like, okay, I know I'm feeling that, but maybe I just need to take a break, recomb through things. I've worked with consultants a lot, that have helped me go through my work, and kind of rekindle the spark of why I got into this.
Yeah. The burnout definitely has got to be something.
Yeah.
Tough to navigate.
And then like, it's at that point, it's, it's almost like more personal therapy than anything. It's not like you're, I'm not good anymore. I just don't know how to take images, or take a good picture. It's almost like dealing with, you got to get, it's what's in your mind and in your heart. You got to kind of get in touch again with what made you love it.
Yeah.
And remember that.
All right, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
How many photos do you think you've taken in your lifetime?
Oh man, geez, a million. I don't know. I mean, like nowadays, shoot, like on an average, I'll shoot 5,000 images a day on some of these commercial jobs. Like, I just can't believe I've gotten to that point where I'm just like ripping away like that. But I don't know. I mean, if an average, if on a shoot like that, it's 5,000 a day on a boat shoot, times, a few weeks a year doing that. Yeah. I don't know. It's got to be over a million. Right?
Got to be over a million.
Yeah.
All right. I just kind of wanted to hear the million, All right. So we got a couple of quick ones here to wrap it up, but you've worked with some huge names before. So, I mean, I've seen this, over the past few years, but I looked on your Instagram, and Blake Griffin, former Detroit Piston, which I saw.
Yeah.
You shot some of him. Travis Rice, Bethany Hamilton, Jeremy Roenick. I mean, you could go on about some of these big names.
Wow.
What surprises you about working with like these larger than life figures, like these superstars?
Man, that's cool when you listen like that.
That was only a few. I could have gone for a long time there.
That's cool. I just, sometimes I'd still, like, for me, I'm just like, I don't know. I still feel like a kid sometimes, where I'm like, I can't believe it. Talk about gratitude, like, when I hear that, I'm like, I can't believe that I've created a life that I get a chance to interact. And not that it's like these big names are that important, but it's like, when I hear that, it's just amazing that a kid with a camera found my way, and these people trust me to let me into their lives and take fun pictures. But, the question was around, I think what always surprises me, and again, goes back to like the importance for me to keep it on like this like human level, but like that we're all just we're all just people, man.
Yeah.
We're all just people going through some version of, life down our path. And it's like all of these, big names that are big on Instagram and big in the world, sports athletes or movie stars. It's like, I don't know. My goal with them when I'm with them is just to make it as human as possible and relatable, and not where I'm just like wearing them out. And you have to be respectful, because they get a lot of that a lot of times, but I think I'm always just at the end of the day, like the moments that feel good when you're looking at this person that you've just put on such a large pedestal and you realize that, whatever, they're a person and a human too, going through the same struggles.
They wipe their ass just like me.
Exactly, dude. And it's like, I don't know. And it's a good feeling when you hit that moment, and you're like, it's not like we're exchanging numbers and we're like going out to dinner, but there's a good, just this moment of like, I trust you and you're a good person. And, you can see you guys also when you're taking a photo, you're also, it is intimate, it's an intimate thing that happens. I mean, it's, where you are, especially if it's a portrait where you're having to go on a little date with them on getting to know who they are and you have a very short time to maybe pull out something about their personality that is going to, get some attention, or that's going to have some sort of shine to it. So that always helps with like getting past the layers pretty quickly and realizing that, yeah, cool. These are just, another human.
We're all humans out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I want you to do the Mount Rushmore of wake photographers, if you can. You know what Mount Rushmore is?
Yeah,
you pick
of course.
4.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man.
I don't know if you can include yourself or you can choose to not include yourself. It's up to you. I'll put the ball in your court on that one. But
of wakeboarders or
no wakeboard photographers.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
Wakeboard photographers.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mount Rushmore.
The Mount Rushmore of wake photographers.
You could do wakeboarders too after if you wanted. I'm kind of excited for that. So,
I mean, I got to put Tom King on there for me, just because, he's.
Scooch a little bit closer.
Oh yeah, sorry. I put Tom King on there because he was one of my largest inspirations, and he was coming at it at a time that really didn't have much to. He wasn't really looking at anyone's work, and so. Yeah, I mean, when I look around, when I see a tube shot in the sky with blue sky, it's like, I think, that's Tom King. So,
all right, we got one.
Let's see. I mean, I'm gonna have to put Joey Maddock on there. How many can I have? I mean,
4
God,
4 total.
4 total.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I know.
Joey. Yeah. I mean, him and I were just so right there, neck and neck, like this beautiful relationship of like competitive and then like supportive, which is like, but in a great way,
Okay.
And just always pushing each other. And
Tom King, Joey Maddock.
Tom King, Joey
got 2
Maddock. More. Oh man, I mean,
I know everybody would put you on there.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to put myself on there.
Okay, fair.
Only because I think I would throw in Kirk Bender. Just because I would put him on there because he represented such a he represented the West Coast. He represented a style that came from something totally different. It wasn't there was such a Florida thing happening. And so for me, looking back, I looked up to his work and like just the style that he shot and the way that he connected with athletes. Anyways, I just put him on there because he has to represent the West Coast.
I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I know he kind of trickled out of that sport early on, and he might not make the list for other people, but for me, like it was, at least when I was getting into it, he was someone I looked up to and bringing a flair that wasn't like this Florida style.
I like that.
And then
got one more.
I don't know. I mean, Garrett and Rod would, I don't know, Garrett, Rod, both those guys. That's next on the list for me. But I think I'd have to go with Garrett.
Okay,
Rod, I love you. If there's space, you can. You're also etched in there as well, but I'd put Garrett on there just because of his just I don't know, his vast coverage of the sport, and like he's done the magazine thing, he's done the freelance thing, he's done it all. He has just such a wide gamut, and is still found. And I think I really give it up to him that he's still in it. You know? Like really still in it. You know, and has just found a way to keep recreating amazing images and not make it. And I'm sure he's gone through burnout, but just not growing old and keeping it fresh, you know? So
definitely.
Yeah.
That's a good list.
Yeah.
It's a very good list. I like that. All right. So I think, speaking of Garrett Cortese, we got a guest question from Garrett Cortese.
Garrett Cortese.
We'll go ahead and cue that up here.
Yeah.
Lechy, what's up? It's Garrett.
What's up?
I am stoked that you are doing a Grab Matters podcast interview. I am stoked to listen to it. And but before I drop a question for you, I just wanted to share a story that I thought might bring a little entertainment to you too. I, being a total wake photographer nerd, was probably just as stoked and intimidated meeting Josh for the first time as any pro rider, maybe even more so. You know, I'm the kid that grew up ripping photos out of the mags because I liked the photo and the photographer, not necessarily caring too much about the rider. And obviously in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of those were Lechy's photos. And so I first got to meet Lechy shortly after I moved to Florida, working for Alliance, and I got sent down to do a story on the Hyperlight team shoot that would end up being the last Hyperlight super team shoot down in the Keys. And Lechy was there as the photographer for Hyperlight, and I got to meet him, and I was super intimidated, but obviously Lechy being Lechy was just super cool. And since that day, Lechy, you've always just been so encouraging and supportive and just an awesome human being. So thank you for all of that for me over the years, but thank you also for just everything that you've done for the wake industry. You are a legend in your own right, and you're just the man. So thank you very much. But with that, I'll throw out a couple questions. First, being the little photo digital nerd that I was, and never having shot wake on slide film or submitting slides to any of the wake mags back in the day because I had access to digital cameras early on, what was your favorite slide film to shoot and why? And then if I had another question, if you could shoot one wakeboarder one more time, who would it be and why? Or wake skater, or maybe actually let's do one of each. You can shoot one wakeboarder one more time and one wake skater one more time. Who are you shooting and maybe where? And then give us one great Liquid Force PAL story that comes to mind for you. Liquid Force was, we were stoked to just go back to PAL. I felt like I had ridiculously big shoes to fill doing that photo shoot, but we had a ton of fun and got a ton of really good stuff, and it felt really cool to see that brand go back there because so much of Liquid Force's identity in the early 2000s came from yours and Joey's photos doing all of the marketing shoots out at PAL there for a handful of years in a row, and it really became an iconic spot in the world of wake because of those marketing trips and shoots that you would do and the ridiculous stories that came out of them. So share one of those stories. Thanks, buddy. Hope all's well. Next round of beers on me. Peace.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a little positive. So yeah, we had a little three-parter there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Garrett, for that.
Thanks, Garrett.
He did put you on the Mount Rushmore, so I'm sure he will be happy to hear that.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, Garrett. I appreciate the kind words. That was super sweet.
Favorite slide film.
Yeah, favorite slide film. Oh, well, the go-to slide film, Pro Via. Again, I like to mix it up. I mean, it was Fuji, Pro Via, or Velvia. I probably have to go Velvia.
Okay.
Yeah, go Velvia because Velvia was a 50-speed film, and you really had to get it right. Like Pro Via was a 100-speed film. It was a little more forgiving. it was, yeah, I mean, it just had flatter colors. Velvia, what was special about it, it was like super hard to get the exposure right. It had a tendency to go a little dark, so you really had to get really specific. Like, I mean, your exposure had to be within a third of a stop, you know, or otherwise it just went too saturated, too dark. And it just had these insane colors. Like the blues were like super rich, and just the shadows were black. And it just had this, like, you just knew it. I don't know, just something about Velvia. And then you could also like push it. I used to like pushing film, and which basically just means, you know, the technical is just like you would shoot it as if it was a higher film speed, and then you would, in the processing, you would basically, you know, leave it in the developer longer, and it would create some interesting effects. You could like push the film speed, pull out more grain in the film, and like basically develop down deeper into the emulsion. So
okay,
yeah, Velvia. That's my answer.
I like that.
Yeah.
Second one wakeboarder and one wake skater to shoot one more time, and where?
Wakeboarder, I'm going with my gut here. I'm going to go Ben Greenwood.
All right, Benny, strap it back up, buddy.
Man, it's like I almost get like emotionally moved when I think about Ben, just because, like, you know, the same thing he said about me, I feel about him. Yeah. Just, you know, this the most humble, loving human ever. Just always was just so. I felt like he was always so grateful to be there, you know, and I think that was like what was special about him. Not only was he just like an incredible rider, but he knew that what he had stumbled into his lap was special, that we all had stumbled into all of our laps was special. So I love that. And being with him, it was like complete, complete, all guards down, you know. Being with him was like so disarming and felt so good, you know, to hang out with him for a day. So I'd pick him, and I'm just gonna say Lake Powell.
Okay.
Lake Powell, Ben Greenwood, some glassy cove somewhere, set up doing double ups, and just in a chase boat, you know, the sun's shining, there's not a lick of wind, and just shoot big double ups all day.
Okay, wake skater.
I mean, Aaron Reed or Thomas Harrell. Aaron. Aaron. Yeah. I just have so many photos of Aaron Reed, and just became such a close friend, and just same thing. I always loved being with him and feeling super close and connected to him. He always had amazing ideas, and I just really enjoyed capturing his personality.
Yeah.
You know, he had such a unique one, you know. He was like, you know, he could like get deep on something, and then he could also just be just a big goofball, you know. And so, yeah, and he was always up for some adventure. He would, you know, carry the winch into some Florida spring, or he was building something. So, yeah.
So where are you going? Some Florida spring with a winch?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'd load up in a truck and, you know, put on an old Waylon Jennings CD and drive with the windows down, and I don't know, go find some ditch somewhere with an obstacle, and then tow him out of that thing.
I love it. Polar opposite of the Benny G one. You know, perfect double up in Lake Powell, and then in a ditch.
So true.
I love that.
Yeah, we would just go driving, and it would be less about where we were going and just like, you know, what roads we took to get there, and have a bunch of good conversations. And then eventually we'd find some spot and then make magic with it. You know, we'd come up with something and do it. And it would be like weird and different and out of the ordinary. So that's what we do.
All right. And last one here, favorite Lake Powell story, or one Lake Powell story, I guess. Doesn't have to be favorite.
So many different ones. I mean, one that comes to mind was the time that we sunk the Malibu, pulled it back in. Like, we were, you know, a week long out there, and you're just fried. And we were just on our way back in, which at that point, when you're going back in from Lake Powell, it's like you've had a great time, but you're ready to get off the boat.
Get me home. And so everyone's energy was just that. And we're like, you know, we're going, we're getting close to the marina.
And someone's like, holy shit, man. Like, what's going on back there? Where's the boat? And like, we all run to the back, and like the Malibu had, I don't know for how long we had been towing like a couple boats, but the one in the front had just been had just porpoised under the water and was just being drugged like a fishing weight. And the thing was, the only thing that you could see was the tip of the tower. And it was just like, now, I mean, I don't know if it was Henshaw driving. I can't remember, but I remember like, how in the world did we not notice that the boat had completely gone under the water and we were just dragging it like under the water, like 10 feet under the water. And just, I don't know, just the chaos that ensued, and like stopping into the boat, kind of flopping up, and all the cushions were flying out of it. But that was one that stuck out in my head. And
that's a good one.
Yeah. Just like literally just burying that boat. And it's just, I think what's the funny part for me in that story is just how like we were just so unaware. Like that at that point, you're just so pal-brained, you know, you're just like, you're toasted, and you're just, you know, you just got one thing in mind, and that's to get back to the marina. And we didn't realize we were dragging a boat. And then the 12 before 12 was always good. Like
12 before 12.
12 before 12, which was just, you know, something that I believe Aaron created, but it was like 12 beers before 12 noon.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be, but I wanted
12 before 12. I mean, like, pal, the days are just so fucking long, you know? Like,
well, yeah, what time are you getting up?
So we would like,
Sunrise.
you know, pal, you would get up at, dude, the sun was coming up at 5. I mean, it was light at 5:30.
Yeah.
So there was just the days were just like this. Talk about a long, strange trip. You know, it was just that you would get up at 5. You'd be on the water at 5:20 in the boats. You'd be sun up shooting sunrise stuff at 5:30. You would be back at the boat like after a morning session at like 8:30. You know, you'd rode and shot for 3 hours, and then you come back. It's 8:30, and it's like still morning. And you know, a lot of time. Usually got a lot of time on the boat and POW, and a lot of weird ideas come up, and you know, and it usually always led to drinking as early as possible. Yeah. I mean, and then anyway, he started the whole thing about having 12 beers before noon. And so, yeah, not every day, but yeah, there were a lot of days that just, yeah.
Hit him with a 12 before 12.
Yeah, we just got busy on the beers and the Wizard staffs, and just, you know, it was a party for sure. I don't want to paint the picture that that's all it was, but you know, you put a bunch of 20-somethings on a houseboat for a week, and you know, we're going to get shit done, but we're also going to have a really damn good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, you're waking up early, getting all the work done. And then it's like, okay, well, we're not going to shoot during the middle of the day. I'm assuming.
Right. Exactly.
Next time we're going to shoot is when sunset.
Totally. You'd kind of like, you'd have a big gap of time. So, you know, we would like have time to, you know, fully drink, have a hangover, get a nap, and then wake
back up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we would like normally like a second session. We'd shoot in the morning, come back, eat breakfast, go back out from like 9 to 11, and then like, you know, and then really be shut down from 11 until 5 o'clock. Yeah. So, you know, it was a long stretch. So we just did some weird shit, you know, some drinking, some just exploring, jump off cliffs and go explore like the deep caverns of just whatever. It was wild times, man. You know, it was like being on Mars out there.
Looks like Mars.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of fun though.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
All right. So I think before we wrap this up, we talk setup. So nowadays, what are you shooting with for the camera people out there?
Yeah. Let's see. Here's what I'm shooting nowadays.
He's grabbing it. There we go.
Over here. Nowadays, this is a Nikon Z9, which is mirrorless camera. Yeah, I've never left Nikon. Always been a Nikon guy since I first started. First camera I ever had. And yeah, this is like their flagship camera now. So it's, you know, it's fast, shoots a high frame rate, does all the things. I don't know. For me, I'm not really that tech. I think you have to love tech a little bit if you're into photography, because it is this weird mix of like art and science, and you have to, you know, just be a bit of a gearhead, you know, and it's like, and I do have that in me, but it's like, this thing does so many things that I don't really understand, you know. The things I enjoy about the new technology is like, you know, obviously fast autofocus, which is a huge thing, you know, your exposure, you know, compensation, or the way that it exposes is so much easier. The low light capabilities, I mean, those kind of nerdy things have like really changed the game on things that were super difficult in the film days where we were like shooting 3200 speed film to try to do nighttime stuff. And now it's like, now you can shoot, 20,000 ISO. So anyway, so this is, I got a couple of these, couple of bodies, and still use a basic lens setup, 24 to 70, 70 to 200. The old nifty 50 millimeter is like probably my, favorite lens of all time. It's the most realistic lens, Okay. It's a 50 millimeter is essentially how like kind of we see our perspective, like even though we have a much more panoramic view, 50 millimeter is pretty accurate to size and perspective that we see. So, being someone who like enjoys shooting people and like kind of capturing that real and gritty side of humanity, it's like that to me is like the lens that tells the most truth.
Yeah. Okay. I like how you put that. It tells the most truth.
Yeah. It tells the most truth.
That's
cool. That's it. The 50 millimeter tells the most truth. It's like, that's it, man. And, but these, and then I just brought out some other cameras.
Yeah.
Here.
Run through
like,
this kind of stuff here.
Yeah. This is an old film camera here. This is an old Nikon FM2. I used to shoot a ton of film, and this one's got an interesting story to it. It's crushed. But when you're talking about shooting in the snow back in the day, like when I got on some of those first Nike shoots, I went out in Colorado, and we were shooting some portraits at the bottom of the mountain. And I get like yard sale when I'm shooting, where I'm just like, I put stuff everywhere, man. I'll set something down and walk over here, and it's just I get this like scatterbrain going where I'm just like, I'm thinking about one thing, and that's like what I'm seeing and what I'm trying to create. And so I'd set that camera down on a snowcat, and like it had a bunch of snow on it, thinking that like, oh, this thing's been parked here for a week, And so I set it down, I set my entire camera bag on it actually, and then decided to walk away because something else got my attention. It was like, squirrel, go here, and walked over and started shooting. And then I remember hearing the sound of a snowcat start up, and I looked over and I'm like, holy shit, my camera bag's on there. And he didn't see it. He like took right off. The snowcat moved it, came back, and my camera bag was just completely buried in the snow, crushed. And like, surprisingly, I think it busted a lens. And then, I don't know, I actually kind of like this. Looks like a war photographer or something. But completely smashed the camera and learned my lesson. Don't put shit on a snowcat track, even if you think it's been there for a while. But I used to shoot a lot with those Nikon FMs. Those are classic old Nikon cameras made in the 60s. The shutter would go bad, and I would just put it on the shelf and buy another one because they were cheap. They were like $100 at the time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Nikon too, being a Nikon shooter, is that all their lenses are F-mount lenses until just recently, but you can mount an old lens that was made in the 50s on there, or you could mount a lens that was made in the 2000s. Yeah, same mount. So it was always great having those old film cameras like that, because I could just put the newer lenses on there and manually focus them and stuff. But yeah, so that was a super. I always kept that camera more so back in the wake days. I would keep that little film camera on. I would shoot a lot of like lifestyle and portrait black and white film with it. And then the other one, this is like an old Nikon F5, which is a film camera, and that was like, when I think of a workhorse camera for me during the heyday of my wake career, like it was that camera. Like, and this thing probably got drowned in the water. It's like all beat up.
She looks like she's seen better days.
Yeah, it's beat up. I mean, it's got rust all over.
It's cool though. It's used.
I probably drowned 4 or 5 cameras in my career. Just you're in the water, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But that was like the workhorse, man. That thing was, for its time, would shoot like 8 frames a second. If you're shooting sequences with a roll of 36 frames on one roll of film, I mean, you'd be lucky if you get like 2, maybe 3 sequences. So I remember the days of shooting sequences and like taking the risk on whether I thought the writer was going to land it or not, sometimes not. Just wanting to save the film, and like, I don't think he's got it. It became like a gambling thing. I don't think he's got it on this one. I'm like, fuck, I hope he doesn't land it. Like, I want him to land it, but I hope he doesn't land it on this one, And then like taking the risk. Okay, he failed. Okay. So next one, he came really close on that one. So this next one, I'm going to let it rip. Because you're also trying to like figure out like, how many rolls of film do I want to take a risk on this? Yeah. It's not like digital.
Because once you're out, you're out. You're done, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You're out there.
I would have a ton of film, but you did have to think about it. Like, how long is this person going to go? If you were trying to get a really important trick, usually this person's going to go until they get it.
Yeah.
And so you kind of had to play. It wasn't like the digital game where you had thousands of, it's like I came out here with 6 rolls of film, 6 times 36, whatever. I've got maybe 20 something sequences that I can go for it, So I remember just like making that call. And then I also remember just like, shooting 2 sequences on a roll and they didn't land it. And I'm just like throw it in the garbage, That film was, I wouldn't even process that because it's, there wasn't anything in there, but I would shoot a lot on that.
You ever gamble wrong? I mean, you had
That's a good question.
Maybe not. I don't know. You had the sixth sense.
I'm
you had the
sure
feel.
I did, man. I'm sure I did. I don't ever remember like failing on like something super important, but I think there was times where like someone would make it and I'm like, shit, dude, I didn't shoot a sequence of that, because we weren't always trying to get the sequence, but if it was something new, like that was an important part of it. So, I'm sure I had to like, kind of tiptoe back in and be like, can we try it again?
What do you think about just running
Can
that
we do
one
that
back?
one more time? Like the landing was a little weird, man. I got plenty of good stills in the middle of it, but like, the little shove it off the end there, I didn't get that. So, but I'm sure I gambled wrong, but the gambling was early on in the, it was pretty, like you could kind of tell.
Like,
how far along they were, and like, this doesn't quite look like it's polished yet. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, I think we
added
wrap
some fun to it too.
Yeah, that's true. You get the heart pumping a little
exactly.
bit. No money involved, but their photos are. All right, so I think we wrap it up with a guest question from Jeff McKee.
Ooh, Jeff. I thought about the McKees when I pulled down this road because I used to come over to their house, which is just down the street.
Josh, hope you're enjoying the hot seat, man. There's some warm, non-alcoholic IPAs down to your left on the shelf if you get thirsty.
Ooh.
Sometimes Hunter brings the heat, and you need something to cool off.
Oh, here they are.
So, anyhow, dude, it's been a while since we've got to hang in real life. But from the outsider's perspective, looking in on socials, you seem to have the perfect work-life balance scenario. It seems like you work with only the best brands. I'm sure that comes at a premium price. You have great people helping you on your photo shoots. And you also seem to have plenty of free time to relax and hang with the family and go on adventures. So my question is there a secret to this perfect work-life balance you have, or is it just luck? How do you do it, Josh? Teach us your ways.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. I'll mention that again, but I always think about Jeff and Billy. I haven't been out to Windermere in a long time, but driving out here just brought up a lot of good memories. Like I feel like they were early muses in my life, and I use that in the best way. But they were just like they were just awesome brothers that I shot a ton of photos of when I was young, and their parents and their family was always so kind, and spent a lot of time coming out to Windermere to shoot with them. And these little dirt roads around here just remind me of that, just that time. So I appreciate that, Jeff. The secret to that, or like the teach you the ways.
Yeah, Jeff, you working too much right now? What's going on, man? You need some pro tips or something. I don't know.
You need a little more leisure, a little more recreation in your life. Find that balance. No, I mean, I would say the same. I feel like you've kind of got it figured out too. I've always, honestly, it's a tricky one because, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like I'm an achiever on the Enneagram scale, on the personality test. Like I'm a hard worker, so it's important for me to do well and be seen and doing well, it's like, to say that vulnerably, it's like, that's always been important to me to achieve and be good at something. But I also have a really big desire to enjoy life, and so I think it's interesting because there's like 2 parts that gets pulled, in my life a lot in my career. It's like where I'm working really hard and I'm driving to like be successful and keep up, the same, keep at the same work pace and level that I've always done, or even in some ways get better or bigger clients or more work, but then also understanding that, some some good recreation, some good fun, and all that is super important to me, man. Like I think it started early on in this career that like there's a fine line between work and play. And so it became, early on, I was like, I never want a job where I got to go in and, punch in and go to work at 9 and get off at 5 and live for the weekends like that. It's like, that's like misery to think about that. And so I've always loved, the freelance thing because it does give you that balance, It's like, it's just enough fear involved with like, are you going to fail and are you going to make it? There's a little, you're like, is that grit of like, I got to pull this off mixed with like, I got all the time in the world and I can do what I want, so I take pride in having that balance. And like as far as like the secret to how I do it is just, I don't know. I mean, everything from the outside looking in probably looks a lot easier, just like everything. Right. So it's, it can be difficult, I mean, the times when I'm working really hard, it's all I want to do is get home, be with family and go and fish and enjoy time traveling. And then when I'm doing that, and then a lot of times when I'm having that time off, there's like that clock's ticking of like that I need to get back to work. So it's, that's the reality of what's kind of going on. Not that I'm not enjoying each of those moments. I think the key is like to, enjoy the work when you have it, and then enjoy the break when you have it too. It's like, and I don't think I've always felt that that life shouldn't be driven by what you do and just working hard. I feel like we have this amazing opportunity to be on this wild planet, to explore, to have fun, to be with, create community and create families. And sometimes we get a little lopsided, especially in America, that we're just like, it's all about career and accomplishing something. So, for me, it's like, I don't know, find the balance. They're both equally important.
Yeah.
Like if there is the work hard, play hard mentality, but it's like, it's, I like to do both. I like to work hard. And then when I'm like right now, I've just kind of hit a lull, and it's been a super busy year, and now I'm enjoying time off, and I'm allow myself to enjoy time off, and spend time, go on trips with the family. I took the canoe out yesterday and went fishing, and take the boat out and go check some new spot. I don't know. I just try to make it a point that like when I do have the time, I don't beat myself up and feel like I should be somewhere else.
Yeah, so. That's a good way to put it, I think. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, for the question there. You, hopefully hopefully you can take something from that, and, a little work hard, play hard, Jeff. There you go. All right. Before we wrap this up, I mean, is there anybody you want to thank or anything else you want to touch on here?
Yeah. Oh God, there's several. I mean, I always feel like I want to go to Don Wallace, is like I get the goosebumps when I say his name, because he's like he played such a huge role in like the start of my wakeboarding photographer career, more than he probably realizes. I know I've thanked him a million times, but it's like he gave me a shot so early on with Liquid Force at a time when there was like much better photographers or much more established people. And he saw something in me, maybe that just little different way I was doing things, and just gave me a shot early on. And, we're close to the same age. There's just something there. There was just like camaraderie and mutual respect. And a huge thank you to him. To Don. Yeah. I mean, so much praise for him. Greg Nekrasen, him and I are huge friends. I appreciate him. I appreciated how we've navigated through work relationship into like now like lifetime friends, and that you don't always walk away from something like this with someone that special. And like, now we're on a boat together, but doing different things, now we're throwing a fly rod, chasing tarpon.
Yeah.
So big appreciation to him. Ben Greenwood, of course, like I mentioned, Justin Stevens comes to mind, all the filmers, Sean Kilgus, Garrett, Joey, Medoc, thank you. I mean, just, yeah, like all of our time with the Standard and putting that together and taking a risk and sticking by each other's sides and supporting each other. I'm very grateful for that. I taught, like, just that time, that era in our careers was so mandatory for both of us. And so I'm very grateful for him to have, had a partner and trying to create something that was from our hearts and something that was different than was out there, with a unique magazine. Aaron Reed, Thomas Harrell, Parks, Scott Byerly. There's so many.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. So many people in the industry for sure. But these are the people that.
Oh, there's some big ones.
Yeah, these are the
Good
people
ones.
that gave me a lot of trust and let me into their lives in a way that allowed me to get close to them and help tell a story, but also get to know them on a personal level. I feel grateful that I was trusted for so many years, to help, tell a little piece of the story.
You do a good job. You did a damn good job. Still did a good job. But I mean, I want to thank you for all the. I mean, I was looking through. I didn't know it was 19, but I was looking through all the covers on Alliance, and that's obviously what kind of impacted me the most when I was looking back through them. And I was like, wow, man, there's some good shit. Some good shit we had here. And I was going through actual physical alliances and looking at them, and there's just some cool stuff in there. So
I appreciate that. It is cool. It's that chapter is a little dusty sometimes, to shake off that and come back and revisit it. And it's, but it's there. It's written in ink, it's not like it's dissolved. It's just, it's been a little while since I've really dug into those formative years, but it's, but it feels really good to dig in there. And like we were saying, it's like the sport of wakeboarding has kind of hit a point to where it has, it has some lifespan, has some grit to it. It has a rise and a fall and a opening and expanding and a changing. And so it's kind of cool now to actually build some history.
There's enough to talk about.
Build some history. And then it also, it feels really good to have been a part of that.
Yeah, a big part of it for sure. So thank you for coming on. This was a blast. I had a ton of fun with this one.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This was a blast.
Thank you, Hunter. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have me.
Always. This guest, like I said, this podcast is nothing without the guests. So I appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you guys are interested in supporting the podcast, joining the Patreon, that's the number one way to do that. So I appreciate all the Patreon subscribers. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and we'll see you in the next one.